Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here and you feel like you got a little bit of that common sense that's not so common, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you don't, common sense is a disease I'm trying to make highly contagious, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button anyway, please. All right, and today on my channel is another common folk perspective video about forced outings for transgender youth. The ghetto! Okay, but before we get any deeper, remember I ain't got no law degree or training, so don't come for me. All right, I'm getting all my information from Google. I'm giving it to you guys as my opinion. But before we get any deeper, first and foremost, my name is Key, and this is What's the Key?
For me, break, for me, break the body for me.
All right, y'all, let's get right into it. As always, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes, and any bell or munching you're hearing is my cat City doing kitty things, okay? Forced outings of transgender youth. Now, I stumbled upon this. I was looking at an Iowa bill, and then it brought me to this website called Maps, which kind of maps out all kind of statistics for the LGBT community on their website, all right? And then I saw they showed a forced outing map. So this is how I kind of got to this information, got to the states, and we're going to talk about in this video states that either one, force the outing to their parents, or two, have any kind of rule or law in place that could end up having a youth force an outing to their parent, rather that's through electronic or written documentation. So we're gonna go over those states and just kind of go over my opinions on each one. So the first one is Alabama, Senate Bill 184, and it requires school staff to out the transgender youth to their parents. So if they find out anything about the youth, whether they want to go by a different name, or anything along that line, if they find the youth trying to change their gender identity, etc., they are supposed to notify the parents. I don't understand outing the youth of what they're doing at school if it's not causing any kind of problems or issues. And also, what I mean by problems or issues is them being identified as a different gender affecting them. If they're walking around a school and nothing is happening with them identifying as something else, I don't feel the need to bring the parent involved. Yeah, I don't feel the need. All right, next one, Arizona. They had House Bill 2161, which the website says promotes but doesn't require them to out the transgender youth to their parents. But by law, it says parents have access to written electronic documents concerning their child, explicitly naming records, psychological records, counseling records, okay? And if the school can be disciplined if they attempt to withhold this info. I can tell you one thing, as counselors, we've learned to work around this document, at least APA accredited counselors. All right, one thing I was told in my program is to don't write anything down unless it absolutely needs to be written down. There's a lot of vague words you can use on electronic and psychological documents. And honestly, they could avoid getting psychological evaluations at school. I feel like there's a lot of resources outside of school that counselors can kind of display those pamphlets and things like that without ever talking to the youth about it, but then the youth can come pick it up. And them picking up a pamphlet doesn't mean anything, and talking to them about anything, so.
Denial is a river in Egypt.
I feel like there's ways I can get around it. I can get how you say it promotes, but I feel like there's ways around that when it comes to the records. Because one, like I say with any other group, I really can't stand when y'all offer complaints with no solution. I don't think the law needs to be taken away. Okay? But there's another state, and we'll get into it, that has a little extra excerpt in there that I feel like these states can add that they feel like are promoting and requiring those documentations or outings that can make things a little bit better. But we'll get into it when we get further down. All right? Florida, they're saying that Florida's House Bill 241 promoted this. They said any employee of the state or any of its political division or any other government entity that attempts to encourage or coerce.
Oh. Okay.
Child to hide info from their parents is subject to discipline. No, I don't see how that promotes If a child's not going to tell their parent, they're not going to tell their parent. A teacher can tell a student to tell their parent, and some students still won't tell their parents. So I don't understand. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't promote anything. All right. The House Bill 1557 with Florida says schools may not discourage or prohibit parental notification of involvement in critical decisions about mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being. They're saying that by the parents receiving notifications, it'll be easy to tie it to gender identity. I guess if you have a parent that's really paying attention, and like I said, and you have a counselor that's making a lot of detailed notes, although the vague notes can't get to the point where the parents start asking the student at home, like, what's going on? What are they talking about? Another thing is, I don't feel like a lot of schools should be making any critical decision about anything. If anything, the youth needs to go see someone on the outside if it comes to a critical decision. So I can see how that could end up being gender identity if you can, like, you read the information and you're like, okay, yeah, I see what's going on. But as long as the schools don't have any involvement in this, like I said, putting those little pamphlets on the side, having them go to outer resources, which the LGBT community, that is one thing. They do have a lot of resources for their own. I feel like that's just a way to get around it, and you deal with it in school. So they said Georgia promotes it with House Bill 1178 with the right to access and review all records relating to his or minor child. But they said there's already a required federal law for this. So what are you complaining about? Based on what you show me on your website, I don't understand what you're complaining about.
Life could be worse.
So what if they made a second law behind the federal law? You're not telling me enough on your website what you're complaining about, so I don't see the attack on Georgia. Moving on, Idaho. So Idaho is requiring it with House Bill 538, and it says shall develop and adopt a policy for notifying a parent and put nothing in place to prohibit schools from making rules prohibiting a change in the student's mental, emotional, or physical health on well-being, or a change in related services or monitoring. I wonder if the counselors can kind of get around the mental, emotional health. Like, what if they say it's not a change? What if it's some way they've already been feeling like it's not a change in their emotional and mental health? Now, I do see if the child gets depressed and stuff all of a sudden, yeah, you have to notify them of that, but I don't understand how that's considered requiring outing them. There's some people who go around school and just like, I remember, and maybe it's just my age.
Back in my day,
nowadays maybe they are more in-face involved, but there were people that could just be gay and be around the school and be gay. Like, yeah, they got bullied, yeah, they got picked on, but it wasn't like they were going to a counselor every day, seeing things, and et cetera, et cetera. And some of the cases would, but I mean, I feel like they could tie them easily to easy everyday stresses of life and not necessarily to their gender identity. Okay? Because whether you're a transgender youth or a non-transgender youth, you can still end up being bullied in school. You can still end up depressed. You can still end up this. So I just feel like the counselors, don't underestimate how intelligent we can be. Indiana. So for Indiana, they're saying that they require it with House Bill 1608, and it requires school to notify in writing if the student asks to change name, pronoun, title, or word to identify the student within 5 business days. Now, when they say change, does this mean that the student can go around and being called it verbally, but not on documents? So maybe on the document it's the name they don't prefer, but the teachers all go around and say that they prefer this pronoun and stuff like this? Or even if the teachers have to call it that. I don't see that specifically stated in there, that if I mean, what's a nickname? Everybody got a nickname. You can avoid ever saying a pronoun by just using a name. And if they're saying this is my nickname, I'd rather go by this. I mean, I feel like you can play around that. So yes, I can see how it's outing the student, but that's only once the student goes into physical documented records. No, it doesn't seem fair, but like I said, it's still a way to go around it. Okay? Yes, they are outing them in the case if the student says, F it, I don't care, I want it on documents. But I feel like, unless it's a standardized test or anything, homework and documents where they put another name wouldn't matter. The teacher's aware, they're all aware, and the teacher knows, okay, Sarah, but that's Sam. So, I feel like you can work around that, but they are requiring them to out the parents if they have the name changed. My thing is, I didn't know that you would do any of that without the parent anyway. Like, would they allow students to change their name without the parent anyway? Is that exclusive to transgender? I mean, they are saying with the pronouns and stuff like that, so it does seem like it is picking on the transgender youth. But I feel like if any student went in and said, hey, I'm going to change my name, you would have to notify the parent, right? I don't think it's exclusive to youth. I can see the problem in it, but like I said, you need to fight for, you need to give me more solutions instead of just your complaint. But it is a MAP website, so it's probably not made to have all the fights and the solutions and stuff on it. But if you're gonna make a whole citation page talking about each state, etc., then yeah, I feel like you could put some alternatives on there, or if you know what's going on each state with this, you should know what they're fighting and what they're trying to use to put against it. If you have no time to look up all that, that's all I'm saying. Because I can't stand people who are complaining but aren't doing anything to offer me a solution so I can say, yeah, that'll work. We can do that. Give me something to work with, okay? But yes, in this case, this does seem like one that could affect both sides as well. So yeah, you're gonna have to find something to amend it. A way for them to amend it and say, hey, we'll get into that with another state. And my thing is, if the student never goes on record with it, and I get, but it's almost getting to a certain sense of entitlement. But if you never go on record with, ain't shit to tell. You can go to the counselor offices and talk and let the counselor call you whatever pronoun you prefer. But the counselor saying, yeah, we talked about depression, anxiety, normal high school, normal school shit. We try to protect people. All right, therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, we try. It ain't nobody's business if it's not causing harm to you or anybody else. Now, Iowa, they're saying that Iowa's Senate Bill 496 requires them to be outed to parents, and it says it cannot knowingly give false or misleading info regarding the student's identity or intention to transition. Also required them to say something if a student requests any kind of accommodations, including with a licensed practitioner. Any name, saying they prefer this name, the pronoun, and etc. Or just, hey, I don't feel comfortable. Maybe we have a transgender girl or a transgender girl, and they're like, I don't feel comfortable going to the boys' bathroom. Can I please use the unisex bathroom? And which honestly nowadays, and just, I've been watching a lot of Korean shows. With the way, if the bullying is still happening in schools the way they were back when I was in school and when I'm still seeing portrayed in 2024 shows and bathrooms and shit like that, y'all need to make them shits individual anyway. If I didn't work from home, the best thing about going to the office was the fact that when you went into the bathroom, it was a closet. It was a door from the top to the bottom. It wouldn't really matter if they kept it male, separate from male and female, because the door is closed from top to, fully closed. And then I feel like in a lot of cases, just like if they fully, even if you gotta put them on a test run just to see, they are fully looking like that. And it's gonna be, and I feel like schools don't get in trouble enough for bullying.
I said what I said.
But they're gonna get picked on going to the bathroom. Just let them go to the gender affirming bathroom. There'd be some cases where you probably wouldn't even know they'd come out and at the hair and everything, you took a glance, and that first glance you didn't even know. They can't knowingly give false. So I guess this is the point, because Iowa seemed to be the harshest when it came to all these rules against transgender youth and stuff like that. But if the parents are getting to the point where they're asking about their child because they have questions, they can't mislead them. Me, I ain't shit. I'll be like, what? No, Johnny acts normal to me. He's been acting the same way since I met him freshman year. And counselors, y'all know what that is. He's been acting the same way since I met him freshman year. It hasn't really changed much. They're like, do you see that? I'm like, yeah, I see that. Do you have any concern? Do I have it? No. He's just kind of always been like that. Has he ever talked to you about? No. And I feel like you can get away with, because you got to get that gentle reminder. If you bring up this, there's just ways you can talk around it. I promise. I know it shouldn't have to be all that, but yeah. Moving to Kentucky, all right? So they say Kentucky promotes it with their Senate Bill 150. They also have a bathroom ban, all right? They have a ban on best practices medically for trans youth. They said that they must obtain parental consent for mental health services. My thing is, you ain't got to say what it's for unless they're saying for specific trans, but like, I don't see the biggest deal about parental consent for mental health services. I don't feel like a child should have to have parents' consent to go for mental health. When it does involve the school, I feel like we need to start treating the schools as if they are the village, part of the village. Because they do have the children 8 hours a day, majority of the months out of the year. Okay? So they should be able to just go to mental health. I feel like, Kentucky schools, just start making the consent form that the parents have to say to, like, hey, yes, my child can have mental health services. No, my child can't have mental health services. With every format for every student at the beginning of the thing. Boom. Fix that problem. All right. Prohibit rules from being created to keep things confidential. You ain't got to say keep something confidential for you to know that something's supposed to be confidential. You ain't got to say like something, if that person say, hey, I did, sometimes when your friends tell you, that's not something I repeat. That's something I can repeat. Maybe they don't have, maybe we need to get into some for our next child video, some mental health laws. Because I know Philly at the age of 14, they can consent for their own mental health. That's going to have to be a video. We have to look kind of at what some of these states have in place for these children. And specifically maybe these states that force outings for transgender youth or promote it in some type of way. Okay? But I do think youth, especially once you get to high school age, which is weirdly when you start to show your identity, are intelligent and mature enough to at least have some confidential for mental health services. And that's what Philly believes as well. That's why they started at 14, which is basically that year you go into high school. They want you to encourage your students to talk to their parents. However, they can withhold info if abuse is suspected after telling. And this is the one I've been waiting to get to. Kentucky put in there, if you suspect that child could be abused, you don't have to encourage them to talk to their parents about it. If every state that had any type of document or anything like that, if they could get every state to put that in place, then yeah. Because I feel like you got mental abuse. Some, even if their parents don't end up being that way and stuff, and some of them can really just think about being rejected as a whole and feeling neglected and all that, and that is a form of abuse. I think every state needs to put that in place. And if they put that in place, we can get going somewhere. But MAPS did point that out. And MAPS stands for Movement Advancement Project. I realized I've waited so long to say that. And it was at lgbtmap.org. You put that in place everywhere, you basically found a loophole around everything. Now, Iowa might be one of them states to fight back on that. But if you can get that in place, just any feel of just abuse in any type of way, because neglect is abuse too, I think we done found a loophole for majority of these laws. Thing is, why aren't your own kids that bully like this?
I said what I said.
How about any record of youths or anything stating that they've been bullied by somebody, or this person was involved in this and that, or part of a group that was involved in this and that, or blah, blah, blah. They hang around. Why is that not being notified? Why are we worried about the forced outings of transgender youth before we worried about bullies?
Fire everybody.
Montana. So now Montana, they're saying promotes it with House Bill 676, which states they may not withhold from parents info relevant to physical, emotional, and or mental health of a child. They have to allow parents to have access and review health and medical records. I feel like a lot of parents that have access anyway, but that's a good thing. And this is why I say you got to find a better solution, because there are kids being abused at school, beaten in school, getting cuts and stuff at school. Yeah, I want to see the medical record. What did the nurse have to say? What was her analysis on what happened? So we can't take that away from all youth because of the risk of the gender identity being exposed. Then they also have Senate Bill 158, which says schools develop procedures by which a parent shall provide written consent before the parent's child uses a pronoun that does not align with the child's sex. So they're requiring parents' permission to even use a pronoun, which is Now they didn't went over my loophole that I tried to get with the other ones. With Montana, they caught that in there. So even trying to use a pronoun, use a name. Just use a name. And accept the fact, because even in this grown adult world, it still happens. People may mess up. But just use a name. But y'all, I see what y'all did there in Montana. Y'all said we don't care. If we know y'all y'all don't have to write it down. If they even using it or requesting to use it. And my thing is would they matter? I feel like they aligns with she or he. So I don't think people would report they, right? North Carolina. All right, so North Carolina are saying requiring it with Senate Bill 49, requiring schools to notify a parent prior to any changes in name, pronoun used for a student in a school records by student personnel. And this is another one where you're going to have to give me a better solution, because the same as the other one, if anybody had a name change, it probably would have to be notified. So
You're not special.
Pretty sure having a nickname on file isn't a name change or anything like that. So I feel like you can get around that one. North Dakota, their standard requires it with House Bill 1522. Schools may not withhold conceal info about a student's transgender status from parent or guardian. They put that flat in there. Crazy. I know I write my notes beforehand, but sometimes I write these notes up to like 2-3 days before, so it's not stuck in my head. But what if the schools don't know about the status?
Denial is a river in Egypt.
All they do is see them every day. You know? But the schools don't know. There's nothing to report. But yes, they would require to out the transgender youth if they, were aware of the status. My thing is, can we all just act like we don't see it? Like... All right. South Carolina, with House Bill 4624, requires them to be out as a parent. Tennessee requires it with House Bill 2165 and Senate Bill 1810, and I'm going through these because they do. If the school catches wind of it, they have to be outed. If they recognize it, if they, etc. for these states. So yeah, they do have to be outed, and they don't got no safety net like how Kentucky has this suspected abuse or anything like that. It's just outing. Okay.
That is so stupid.
They say Utah promotes it with Senate Bill 100, where the schools cannot show a student's education record from parents and cannot make changes to the student record about gender identity without the parent consent. Well, I feel like even if they did make the changes, the parents would see it anyway if they did make the changes. So it's kind of, could the parent just say change it back? Or make it to the point the parent don't even care, just like, maybe that is a way of them coming out. What if that's the way of them coming out, is a change of a school record and their parents seeing it and they can start a conversation and things like that? Like, even if you change the name on the record, it's not like you can hide the records from the parents. So the parents will see the name regardless. So I don't see the point of them putting it, but I can see how it promotes. But the parents will have to see the record regardless in that case. Okay? But y'all have listened to the end of the video. Those are some of my opinions on the forced outings.
The ghetto.
Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you like what I was saying, or if you dislike, any part of what I was saying. All right. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you see these as forced outings? Do you feel like it's necessary for the parent to know if their child is transgender in any kind of way? If they're talking to their school about being transgender, and etc. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
For me, break, for me, break the body for me.